Do you hear that? It's something quite extraordinary. If you pay attention and listen closely, you'll hear the stories of senior executives transforming brands and the experiences of real people in their natural habitat with those very same brands. Follow your host, Dennis Wakabayashi, as he pulls out his microphone to capture authentic reactions from the people he meets as he travels around the world. These are unrehearsed, unsponsored, and real conversations about CX that you won't find anywhere else. This is CX in the Wild.
Here I am, Dennis Wakabayashi. Happily strange opportunity just to pop in at the Emirates National Bank. Here I have a guest with me who is going to give us sort of behind the scenes CX in the Wild story, Mr. Vikram Krishna. He's the Executive Vice President at Emirates NBD. Vikram, thanks for just jumping in my CX in the Wild impromptu podcast.
Yeah.
I just had a chance to go through some of your innovative experiences here at Expo. I saw a intersection of NFTs and banking, of sustainability and gardening in banking that allows you to scale across customers, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Makes me want to talk to you more. Tell me, can you just take me back? Tell me about you a little bit. This is certainly innovative and something that you're very proud of. Thank you for showing it to me. What do you do at the bank? What is your history? Break it down for me.
Perfect. So thanks for coming. Delighted to have you over today. CX in the Wild is quite a cool title for this. So it's fitting that you've come to the Expo branch to demonstrate that. So we've been involved with the Expo right from the beginning as a bank. We're a significant regional bank. We are the second largest in the UAE and the fourth largest now in the GCC, catering to as many as 17 million clients with about 900 plus branches. So we as one of the significant banks here, we grabbed the Expo opportunity as it came by. We've been involved in it right from the beginning. So starting with understanding what's going to be the impact on the economy with the Expo coming in, to taking part in the bid process, and of course being here at the Expo with a branch, which is actually quite cool. And
right next to Wasl Dome, so like the premier real estate.
Absolutely. So this branch is really an expression of how do we see banking in the future, and interestingly, we've set it in the context of banking today. So it's unlike a lot of pavilions here, which are very, very futuristic and visionary in the way they look at it. We thought that we would want to do service here to the customers who are coming by, and there are a significant amount of daily visitors that come by, obviously curious to see what the Expo is about, and we service them. On top of that, then we have these really interesting expressions of how banking will be. So it includes investing in art through NFTs, to how your data is going to be in the future. Is there a value to it? And yes, how are you able to then access that seamlessly, to the fact that we want to be a farmer, which incidentally I am. I'm an urban farmer myself. So if you're a farmer and we connect you to an ecosystem that allows you to then create a completely different revenue stream. To quantum computing, which is obviously a space where all banks are in right now to understand how does it work. So we've got an interesting case on fraudsters who constantly, they find bank their favorite places to sort of, get onto. So how do you beat fraudsters at their own game with speed?
I would like to know that, because while here at Expo, I had my identity stolen.
You did?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And so that was a little demonstration that was dear to my heart.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a tricky topic because it's a two-way street, right? It's all about the fact that customers need to keep their information confidential and make sure they don't share it, which sometimes they do. And of course, on the other side is a bank which ensures that you have the level of sophistication in the infrastructure such that the information that we have of our customers is safe.
Here's what I thought.
Yeah.
I host these get-togethers for a club called the Ortis Club. And what they do is they bring leaders from all over a particular industry, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, health, and I just moderate. They have me come in and talk. And in there, they were most recently talking about so many of these things that you're describing. We talked about data and security and the change that are happening. And you're right. I find it I find it naive to think that businesses everywhere are now becoming data banks or data handlers. And what I liked about your presentation is you're essentially involving me as the consumer into the personal data and opening that doorway so that there can be greater personalization and security. It didn't hit me until right being in that booth. I want you to know as much as you can about me because you probably would have said immediately, that's not him, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's, today you are the data, you're the product, and you have others who are benefiting from it, right? So we do believe that in the future, even now, there are many organizations that are looking for people like us and for us to share information about topics that are of interest to us and are relevant. And then they can use that data to, make their whole product experience or their innovation agenda a lot more richer. And we don't see any reason why that can't be monetized in the future. And maybe the banks play a role. So the bank is your data bank in addition to the bank that takes care of your money.
How hard is it to have that conversation at a bank?
Incredibly
hard. Typically, the model is around transactions.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about a piece of data as a new... it's a significant source of revenue, partnerships. It's really a conduit to the health, the health, the personal wellness, fitness.
Yes. It's the whole ecosystem approach, right?
Yeah.
Where you have multiple industries that are actually today consuming information. And it's about the bank or a similar entity playing a role in aggregating that and making that available to those who value it and putting a value to it and making sure that there's a data transfer which is seamless, secure, and you get the funds from that purchase almost immediately. So there's a lot of dependencies on this. Let's bear in mind this is Expo. So, it's all about thinking through what the future is going to be, right? So it's a vision of... But I think the point we're trying to make is that this is not a very obtuse vision. It is a likely vision, right?
Absolutely.
And whether a bank does it or a telco does it or any other company in the metaverse does it, it's only a matter of time. But a whole lot of dependencies are required in it, right?
Certainly.
Legislation.
Yes, you set good expectations for the audience. What I thought was, the thought that was in my head about the Ortis Club is they said in there were telcos and there was another industry, and then people were saying, owning your own personal data, it was the telcos that said, get over it to this other industry. We had to decentralize. People eventually took their phone numbers away from us and went wherever they wanted. And people are now saying, I want to take my data with me.
Absolutely.
And that's a clear vision of that.
Yeah, and it also has to be pure consent based as well, right? So you need to make sure when this ecosystem evolves, then you've given consent to each of those players in those different areas, be it banking or healthcare or what have you. And there's a certain way that information then comes together consistently over a period of time that you can then trade.
So these are your vision of the future. What is the single greatest step forward you've made technologically from data or for customer experience in the last year?
Yeah, so we've done a few things that we're very proud of. First is we launched a bank for the millennials here. It's a digital bank. It was the first digital bank in the region called Live. So we welcomed our 500,000th customer last year. So that's something that we're incredibly proud of. And it just goes to show that if you have the right product delivered seamlessly through mobile and with a good rich user experience which understands who the target audience is, what do they want. It's a little bit more playful than what a typical bank looks like and interacts with, and it's got packed with all kinds of value offers. So we try to make sure that the whole interaction experience is rich and meaningful and engaging. So that's one. Second area from a CX perspective that I'm really proud of is CX is leading the vision and the values for the organization. So we as a team, which you see here in the Expo branch, we have worked with the entire organization. We are a large organization. We have almost 28,000 colleagues across the group in 13 countries. Yeah? So for the CX team to work with the leadership of the organization to come up with what's the vision, what's our purpose, and what are our values, and how do you then operationalize that into the organization's DNA? I think that's my top two right now.
I know we just met, and so I always get nervous when I just meet someone because I want to be very respectful, but I don't know what to say or not to say. So I'm going to wade into this slowly. CX doesn't spontaneously appear. There has to be a leader. Yeah. There has to be stakeholder alignment. There's got to be momentum from the outside.
Yeah.
So first question is, your CX transformation, being human-centered and putting these practices in place, it's not the easiest thing to do.
No.
How long would you say you've actually had a commitment to be customer experience focused for your organization?
So I'll have to step back a bit. So we are a product of a merger between two large banks.
Yes.
That came together from 2008 through 2010. So we grew significantly since then, obviously, but as you're aware, any merger that happens, something has to give.
Yep.
So customer experience had a challenge, and that's when the function came into play. So if you look at it from a timeline perspective, pretty much from 2012 onwards, customer experience became more and more significant. The function was set up in 2010, but it's been a long journey. So I would say that it's almost 12 years since the function came into play. In terms of the importance in the organization, well, we have full sponsorship from the board.
That's rare.
We have full sponsorship from the chief executive, who is constantly looking at our information, our challenges. He's available for any issues that we bring to him. Our exco.
But I want to just pause there because I see so many businesses in the U.S. that the CEOs and the boards have still not understood the importance of putting the customer up in priority. Yeah. They put operations over priority, and the challenge there is they're losing those customers to organizations with leadership that can focus on customers better.
Yeah, I think we also benefit from the fact that Dubai and the UAE is very, very customer
I see that. Right? I mean, every interview I've done all week, it's a culture here.
Yeah. Right from the fact that you board a flight with Emirates Airlines or others and you come into town, and the way your airport experience is managed, to hospitality here, or the way your next couple of days would be, I'm sure, the various people that you'll interact with. It is consistent to the vision of the ruler who insists, and it's very hard if you don't get this right. So we are always under a lot of pressure to do better, and we sometimes find ourselves running on a treadmill, and the harder we run on the treadmill, it's not enough.
Well, you're certainly further ahead than most banks that I've had a chance to talk to. How much of the support for CX understanding is coming from internal teams evolving and learning, and how much of it is coming from external sources?
It's very organic, and I feel that that's a good way to do it.
Seems like the way
because I feel that the more people are involved at the grassroots level. So here, for example, these are eyes and ears. We're constantly listening to them to understand what's going on, and then use that information then to fine-tune, calibrate, improve processes. We have a culture of appreciation. So, in fact, I can say that, even though it's getting recorded, we have 15 times more appreciations about our staff than complaints about our staff. So we've seen that transition happening over the last 5 years, and that's something I'm really proud of. I'm really happy with that aspect.
Well, certainly after a merger.
Sorry?
Certainly after a merger.
Yeah. So merger is behind us now. It's almost like it's a decade plus, but it takes a while for cultures to come together, and it's not us and them, it's we. So it takes a while, but I think the overall my approach is, in fact, my organization's approach is make it as organic as possible, make it more within as possible, and of course, reach out to best practices, good practices. Yeah.
Speaking of your organization, how big is your particular CX function?
So we have now almost 35 people in the company dedicated to customer experience. And on top of that, we have the whole service quality organizations, which are a part of the individual businesses and segments. So yeah, it's a big function. It's a big function.
And what are the typical titles for your CX people?
So head of customer experience, head of service performance, head of culture and empowerment, and of course the famous complaints management function.
Do you have user experience?
We have user experience as well, which is a part of the whole customer journey and user experience design practice.
Is CRM included in your
that's a part
CX
of
ecosystem?
so CRM is we are a key stakeholder to the CRM, but it is managed by technology and a multi-channel banking team.
Is marketing part of your?
Yes, it is. So I look after marketing and customer experience.
Okay, good.
And I think that's a good place to be because it keeps you very real and present. And
yeah, because like the whole ecosystem is basically
Yeah.
unknown customers for marketing and then known customers for your service design.
And any banking brand today is a service brand, right? So you can say whatever you want to, but then the road hits a rubber when you pick up the phone and talk to somebody in the bank.
Do you journey map?
Absolutely.
What tool do you use?
So we use Forrester's tools essentially. So that's
yeah.
a firm that we work with very closely. And then over a period of time, we've also developed our own mechanisms and ways to do it. It's very playful. It's a bit like storytelling. Sometimes it's almost like scripting, almost like an animation. So we try to use different methods because sometimes some of these processes can actually become quite boring, specifically when you've been in it for too long.
It
allows you to break out.
One of the things I'll share with you is, have you heard of a tool called Semantica?
Yeah.
So Semantica is here in Dubai.
Oh, okay.
So they're definitely, that's my new favorite journey mapping tool.
Okay.
And here's
I'll check it
why.
out.
It's the only tool in the world that does the most important thing. You can journey map. So remember we used to have Post-it notes.
Yeah.
This is digital. And you might say, so what? It's digital. Two things. One, it allows all of us to collaborate on one map in real time.
Okay.
So it's a living journey map instead of a historical document.
Yeah.
But then here's the most important part. You can feed your data sources. Voice of the customer data, Google data. There's over 200 API connections that allows your digital journey map to light up with your business analytics to see the functional impact of your CX on your financial performance of your organization.
Good tip. I shall check that out.
It's the only one. Anyway, so you're doing journey mapping, you have UX, you're doing service design, you're doing the banking. Let's talk about, and you can always just say pass on any of these questions. Let's talk about how long since you've had CX for a while, how long has it been mature in your organization, the practice?
I would say came up in 2010. It really reached some level of maturity only around 2015, 2016.
Yeah. So
in about 5 to 7 years.
That's consistent with the entire industry because we saw CX come on the scene in the 90s. It took us until, frankly, I think it has a lot to do with Jean Bliss's book. She wrote that Chief Customer Officer book in 2013, and it really was ahead of its time. 2015 is when the book took hold. Corporate business people started to understand the language and have titles, but it wasn't until after that when the mobile phone, Apple Pay, and transactions brought the financial transaction and the phone together, where the customer was able to participate in the experience in a way that scaled for profit. So you're right on the you're right on the consistency there.
Sure.
Since then, since the last 2 years, do you see your CX organization, is it stabilized, or are you adding people, getting better budgets, looking in more places?
So we continue to invest in CX as an organization. So there's a lot of work happening around mystery shopping and more sort of proactive customer CSAT management and NPS. We're also working a lot more on proactive services. So, like every other industry, we learn from the customer when we made a mistake, when we actually knew about it much earlier. So we're trying to see what we can do to swing that. And there's a lot that we're doing. So we give proactive experiences to almost 500,000 customers every year, in the hope that they notice it and they feel that we know them, we value the fact that they are banking with us, and then we're able to then demonstrate the fact that we are interested to make things better for them. So that's one area. The other area is hybrid. So we suddenly we're not alone, right? But there are people who are now working from home. They're taking care of customers. We are not monitoring them anymore as much as we used to earlier. Yeah. So there were obviously misgivings that everybody had, and we were no different. But we're absolutely delighted to see, and maybe that's where the strength of the culture comes in, that people, hybrid environment, work from home, have actually done a way better job than they were when 100% with us. So that's fascinating, and the script is still being written.
Thank you for being so humble. I will say, I love how humble you are. Here's what I know. Your bank is one of the most influential businesses in the world. You are managing probably some of the most advancing and innovative customer experiences there are. You have a giant team compared to most people in the world. So I understand that you hold a distinct position of leadership globally for setting the tone and pace for CX development, but also CXers. So what I'd love to know is, in 2022, what are you focusing on for this year? Because it'd be interesting to know what your North Star is, what you're paying attention to, but not forever. Just this 22, what do you think you're going to accomplish, and what do you think other people around the world should focus on?
So we're focusing a lot on technology and looking at empowering our front end with as much information as we can, so that they are able to take those decisions which are important when you're interacting with customers. Yeah, and for that we have my favorite project right now is knowledge management, because I feel that when you have large organizations, you have this variance in knowledge, right? And what we've seen over the years, thanks to Google, is that everyone can be incredibly knowledgeable about anything in a second, right? But somehow we organizations have missed to trick that. So I'm working very hard with a whole bunch of people to see how can information be available almost on the fly. So then when you're talking to a customer, and obviously it's so complex, right? You can't necessarily know everything. So a knowledge management system which is well constructed, hopefully should be able to settle that. Yeah, that's one. Second, I'm focusing a lot on celebrating people who are doing a great job. And I just feel that there's a lot of negative emotion around complaints that has a certain velocity that rips through an organization, which everybody pays attention to, right? But when someone does a good job, it's like, yeah, you've done a good job, let's carry on with the next day. So I'm just trying to see how we can make more heroes, out of the organization, people sitting somewhere in a corner, doing their job well, and they just feel happy about it. And I think that's infectious, that's viral, and it just makes the bank a better place.
I think those are great places for people to focus this year. Mr. Krishna, thank you for being on CX in the Wild. I'm going to turn this off now, but it's been fun talking to you.
My pleasure.
And so, our time together in the wild has come to an end. To continue your journey with Dennis, connect on LinkedIn or find out more at teamwakabayashi.com. Join us next time as we continue to explore the world of CX in the wild.